welcome to the Fun Roots. Today, we're going to play a little game, a hypothetical game. And that game goes as follows. If you had all the money in the world, I mean all of it, like unlimited amount of money, what would you do? And when I heard this question, like I found it kind of difficult to answer, honestly, because I don't know, like I didn't know where to begin with this question. It's quite vast, to put it that way. Where do you start with this? Had all the money in the world, what would I do? Well, don't worry. I broke it down for you, so you don't have to break it down yourself. So let's get to this. If you ever have played any sort of video games, yeah, okay, hang on. So video games, let's go there. If you played video games before, there is, you can use cheat codes where it allows you to gain access to everything there is to the game. Like, what would take someone 1,000 of hours to complete the game fully with everything unlocked and everything? It can take you 2 seconds and you have everything. And what you begin to realize is that the game become pointless. Like what would take someone 1,000 hours to acquire like the best item in the entire game, right? You have the best armor, the best weapons, the best stats. You level it up, level the character up to max level. You know the entire landscape. You travel from one point of the map to the other, back and forth. You made your entire existence inside this game and you know every corner of this game, right? And you spend thousands of hours to do this. Now all of a sudden, someone hands you a cheat code and you can fly through the game. You become invincible. You can just use a stick and just stab a boss and then he dies. You can take a rock, you throw it at a boss and he dies. You become so strong that everything in the game becomes obsolete. All the armor in the game doesn't matter because your piece of cloth is stronger than the armor, and your trousers are strong. They're stronger than the legendary armor. You can be bare naked and you're stronger than everyone in the game. And what you quickly realize with this is that the game become pointless. Like there's no reason to this. Everything in the game is just like, what's the point? So where am I going with this is that the question, if you had unlimited amount of money, kind of follows down that path. Because I've played games before where I just wish I had everything the strongest, where I just wish I just got the unlimited amount of money, unlimited amount of health, and I could never die. And I've done that in a couple games. And honestly, the interest of the game dies almost immediately when that happens. So everything has to settle back down to some point, right? You achieved everything there is to the game, and then it has to settle. You climb the tallest mountain in the world, and then you gotta settle down somewhere. You gotta make it back down. Every movie has a climax. It starts somewhere, it climaxes, and it goes back down. Everything has to come down to baseline somewhere. So the question is, if you had unlimited amount of money, let's play this game, okay? Let's just go on this trip. If I had unlimited amount of money, what would I do? Let's say I would buy the most expensive car, right? A supercar. I don't think I would drive it because I'd be so scared to damage it. But let's just say like in a more realistic way right now, like doing the things that I do, I would buy maybe a fancy car, a fancy house. And houses can only be so big because I can't live in a house that's like a mansion, right? So I would buy a house that's like manageable, that's livable, and it has everything that I ever wished for in that house. It has the cabinet that's made out of mythical wood from the bottom of the sea. That's like, that has been aged over centuries, and it has been restored through the hands of the most skilled craftsman that ever existed. And it took him 10 years to do that. And I have the house filled with those woods, right? Now, let's say my toilet is made out of the most mythical, rejuvenating, healing stone to ever exist to mankind. You sit on it, and then your body just absorbs all that dark energy, and then it just flushes you with light energy and all of that. I have the watches, all the watches that I ever could wish for. I have pans, the hexagon pans, and that's like, but made out of gold. And I have pans that are just, has this super high tech. I have clothes that I could, the best material to ever exist. It's like made out of silk, or like, I don't know, the highest quality material. This material only exists from this bug that produces like one thread every year, right? Something crazy like that. And then I have all this luxury stuff, but still I go to sleep at night and wake up in the morning. Everything still has to come back down and settle at some point. Like, it has to set somewhere. So I live this high life for maybe a year or two, and it still has to settle. Like, I can't live like, even though I have everything, my house is all pimped out, all my watch is all pimped out, my car is all pimped out, the clothes is all pimped out, but it's still me. Like, I'm still like, I cannot pimp me out. It doesn't work. So it still has to go back in to like this, right? Like this person. So I cannot, even though everything on the outside, I can make it flashy and beautiful, the mind is still the same. So the person that I am is still the same, but everything else might influence who it is, but at some point it's still got to settle down to somewhere. So now the question becomes, where do you settle? And when you think about it in a traditional way, it becomes almost like, it's rather hard to think about it in traditional sense, because it's just like, how do you carve something new out of a path that's been carved over centuries? The road has been so used up that it's like, you cannot see it. So what do? Well, we have to carve a new path. And this is where shifting our perspective comes in. Changing our perspective allows us to see the same problem from a different point of view. So, suppose that water right now in the ocean, it's a baseline. On a quiet day where there's no storm, just very quiet, the water's very still, baseline, very beautiful. And at some point, it will rise up and become a cloud. And when it does that, it accumulates on the cloud to a cloud, and then at some point, it has to release. So, let's suppose that the world we live in right now is the ocean. And when we have dreams, and when we have visions, and when we have wishes, it is a cloud. When we focus enough onto that dream, we put enough energy into it, just like how the sun puts energy into the water. Over time, it will heat and rise up and become a cloud. And when it does become a cloud, where would you want to settle? Now, for me, let's say I'm a cloud and I'm a drop of water. Where would I want to be rained upon? Where would I want to be settled? So, I know for sure that I wouldn't want to be rained upon a city, because the city has a lot of infrastructure and it has a lot of like water systems and pipes and all that. I wouldn't want to go through that. I wouldn't want to go through like rust and someone's drain and has to be pumped up to the city and has to be filtered and has to add a lot of chemicals into it and add like a bunch of be basically stripped away from my soul. I wouldn't want to do that. I want to be somewhere that's more natural. So I would want to be somewhere in nature because that's the most natural as it gets. I wouldn't want to be, let's say, a famous lake because everyone would be there. And I wouldn't want all that. People would just go fishing and people would go gather and swim there and cause all kind of chaos there. I wouldn't want to be in the ocean because you have all kind of like industrial ships and you have fishing ships, you have people out there, you have oils, and you have all kind of drilling machines and all this stuff in the ocean. I wouldn't want to be there. It's just too much chaos. I do envision myself somewhere quiet, like perhaps a small lake in a forest. Not too big, not too small, just enough that it is quiet enough. And it's like if you discover it, you feel like you discover some sense of gold. Like this is a peaceful place that I know about, that not too many people know, that me and my family can come and go for a swim. When the sun is about to set, you have like this perfect sunset at the horizon and it glares up the entire lake, kind of like that. And it's not too busy. It's not like touristy. And it's just a few people that know about it. And only those who know. That's where I would want to reside because I feel like again, city would be too much. This ocean would be way too much. I wouldn't want to be a small puddle because I feel like that wouldn't be any fun. But just enough, just tranquil enough, and just somewhere in between. And the animals who come to drink it would feel refreshed. It's like a no war zone, no predator zone. You can't come here and fight each other. There's no alligator. It's just peaceful water. You just come, you nourish yourself, and then you go on about your journey. So that's essentially is what this podcast is about, right? So it's like that little lake hidden away in plain sight. So that's where I would want to reside. So thinking about again, when it comes to understanding ourself, how does this tie into human terms? Well, in human terms, I don't like somewhere that's busy. In human terms, I don't like to be somewhere that's let's say man-made. Cities are man-made. Nothing wrong with it. I just don't prefer it. But I'm somewhere in the process, right? Like, so I'm not in the city, but I'm like a little bit out the city. But ideally, I would want to be residing somewhere in this hidden lake that I'm talking about. So essentially, in human terms, how I envision myself, where I would want to place myself, reveals a lot about myself in the non-traditional way, but it converts over. So in human terms, I just don't like crowded places because XYZ. I don't prefer to be the biggest lake because I wouldn't want people to come there and crowd up the place and start partying and just too much noise. I wouldn't want that. And people come there like it just, yeah, too many people. I wouldn't want that. So it's just preferences, right? So where I would want to reside suddenly reveals a lot about myself. And essentially at some point, everything that I do revolves around that, because it doesn't make sense for me to be in a lake that's hidden in plain sight and start doing industrial work. It just doesn't line up. If I would like industrial work, then I would want to be somewhere that's busy to do industrial work, to do industrial things, and then apply industrial effects to whatever that is. So again, playing a video game can reveal a lot about yourself. How you play it, how you prefer to play it, what you like to do in the game. Just like in life, like what do you like to do? Do you tend to go to busy places? Do you tend to be the loudest? Do you tend to wear the flashiest? What do you do? And these things reveal a lot about ourselves, and like that's like the baseline. So again, hypothetically, this hidden lake in plain sight, if I had all the money in the world and I had like the fanciest, most filtered, I mean, I could build like, let's say, mansions around the lake, right? And I can build like whatever I want because I had all the money in the world, right? So I could build, have the most mythical trees and all this bullshit around this lake. But all of a sudden now it doesn't turn into a lake anymore. It loses its value. So just money is one thing. Unlimited money is one thing. But by the end of the day, no money can really change. Like it can affect you, but the person that resides deep inside are not influenced by, it can be influenced by money, but it doesn't change. Like that person still resides at that level, at base level. Like a fish is always going to be a fish. No matter how many wings you give the fish, it doesn't fly. No matter how many oxygen tanks you give to a cow, it doesn't dive. Like it is what it is. Like put a cow in a U-boat. Sure, it is deep down in the sea, but it's still a cow. A bird, give it a motorcycle. It's still a bird. So it doesn't matter what you change the environment or how you influence in that way, but the baseline is always going to be the baseline. A tiger is always going to be a tiger. A chicken is always going to be a chicken. You don't hug tigers in the wild. You can hug chickens because we know what it is, right? So it comes down to where is that baseline? And by changing our perspective on ourself, allows us to see the world in a different light and a shine different perspective onto ourself. Because of, if we think about it in a traditional sense, it makes sense to want to buy like the most expensive things and do the most ridiculous things and just have all the riches in the world. That would be cool. Don't get me wrong. But by the end of the day, it's still got to settle somewhere. It has to settle somewhere. And to find out where that settles, we have to ponder upon the question of multiple aspects you could, but this is one of them. Where would you want to reside? And that is going to end today's podcast. Thank you for listening and see you on the next one. Cheers.